Hi everybody, welcome along. So many of you already tuned in. Wonderful to have you here today again for Watercolour Wednesday. Just making sure my mic's working. Yep, it's working. Excellent. So, welcome along everyone. Let me see if I can see your comments. Who have we got? Steph, Charlotte, Deb, Wendy. Hi everyone. Hello Linda, Belinda, Conway and Pip. Sorry if I've missed your name out. So we're doing this wonderful lighthouse scene today. I've just realised I've posted the picture of the lighthouse down the bottom corner and you can't see what I'm working on. There we go. Let me just adapt that 1 second. Bear with me. See if I can change it. I think it might be too late. Yeah, never mind. We'll work around it. So I wanted to have that picture there so you could see what's going on. So I'm just going to move my picture over a little bit and I'll work this side. There's always a workaround. First timer Anne. Hello Anne. Hey Martina. Wonderful. Now have you got your masking fluid? We need our masking fluid for this, or an oil pastel, or a crayon, a white crayon. Okay, because we're going to mask out the area of the water to get the splashes and to retain the white of the paper. So I have my mixing palette. I'm having to reorganize everything so you can see what I'm doing. I've got my fish, got my little fishy in the bowl. I've still got some of these in stock. I've got 5 left if anyone wants a fishy water bowl. Okay, let's get started. So that picture's in the corner of the screen so you can see something new for you today. You might be able to see on the screen, support me at ko-fi.com. I appreciate that you can't all afford to do my paid for classes, but there's a little support button. You can buy me a coffee. £2 donation would be greatly appreciated. It's the first time I've used it, so I want to see if it works. So if someone can donate me £2, I'll see if it works. Okay, so here's one I did earlier. You've got it pinned on the screen, and we're going to start with our very simple sketch. So have you all got your pencils ready? Hi Paul, Liz, Jean Perkins. Okay, so get your pencil. I'm using a retractable pencil so that if it breaks I don't have to reach for my sharpener. How cool's that? So we're starting with the lighthouse itself. Very simple drawing. Give it a little curve at the top and come down the side. So I'm doing it all with you today. I've not drawn. The image is on the screen for you to draw along, and the lighthouse gets slightly wider as we come down the bottom. I've just realised already I've drawn mine too fat, so I'm just adjusting that line. Yeah, as I said, we're going to be using masking fluid today, and the masking fluid is going to be used to protect and keep the white of the paper. I don't want it too narrow. There we go. There's a little kink at the top, and try and keep it even, both sides. Down we come, down towards the rocks, and then there's another little kink at the bottom. So it's like a little column. Hello Sarah, coming across the bottom. Now when we draw our lines on the lighthouse, you'll notice that they're not straight. I'm just going to make this a little bit fatter. Just change my mind. It's better for you guys if I do it a bit bigger, so I'm just going to make it a little bit fatter. Just a couple of mils. There we go. Lightly sketching. I'm using a HB pencil so my marks aren't too strong. Now when we're doing the curves, what do you do if no white blocker? If you haven't got white blocker, have you got a crayon? Have you got an oil pastel that you can put on the paper to protect the whites? Lastly, if not, you could go in at the end with white acrylic, Wendy, and put some white acrylic paint over the top. It won't look the same, but it's one way of achieving a similar look. So coming across our lighthouse, I want a slight bend in my line. It's not a straight line, it's a curved line for the stripes on our lighthouse. So coming across with a slight curve so we keep the perspective correct. And the bands are pretty evenly spaced. Coming across. There's not much drawing today, guys, you'll be pleased to know. Hi, Donna. Hey, Donna Jonesy. Okay, and again, another band. This white one further up is a bit wider. I'm going to make it a bit wider. And then we come to the top of our lighthouse. Always have a little rubber to hand in case you make a mistake like I did. And across again with that slight curve because we're looking up at our lighthouse. Okay, so those bands are slightly bandy. Going to come out for this little ridge, little lip where the lighthouse, the red and white part of the lighthouse changes to the kind of stone colour. Take a bit of time on your drawing, because once it's on, it's on. 72 of you, how wonderful. And now I'm going to come up to create this slight dome. Again, trying to keep it even, the curve similar both sides. That's the most awkward part of this. Into that curve, and then it straightens up, and again we've still got that slight curve to our lines because of the angle that we're viewing this little lighthouse. Okay, are we keeping up? Afternoon, Leslie, Marilyn. Okay, coming to the top now. We've got a nice glass windowed dome at the top of the lighthouse. So just curving my pencil mark over. Come to a point. It's like a missile, like a rocket. Okay. And now I'm just going to put in very carefully the window bars. Now some of the window bars are right in front of us and some we can see through out the back. So I'm just going to add another one in the background. Our little spaceship. And then just a little pattern on the top before we come to the spire. Another little dome, another little nugget on top, and then into our spire, which actually gets smaller. It goes halfway and then it gets thinner. Not that it really matters. Onto our ball, our light on the top. So there we are. You shouldn't really use a 2B pencil when you're sketching. Even with this HB pencil, if I rub my hand across the paper, you can smudge it, okay? And it just mess everything up. Who's that? Chris Rawlins. Hello, Chris. Hi, Angela. Geraldine, that's a new name. I don't think I've seen you before. Excellent. If you're new, let me know. And then we're just going to bring the rocks in slightly behind the lighthouse. Just a nice jagged edge. Just be nice and loose on your brush, bringing these rocks down towards the sea. Okay, that's the drawing element done. So nice and easy. Now we're going to be using the hairdryer today, guys. So if you're painting along and you haven't got your hairdryer, go grab your hairdryer. I've got my masking fluid. I've got it in liquid form because I'm going to be using a fair amount. You can get it. You can buy this from me as well in pen form. Okay, but it's a bit. Hi, Wanda. Hey, Wendy. It's a bit easier, I find, when you're doing a large area to use the liquid. So we're going to take that liquid, and I'm using for this a plastic applicator. It's actually a colour shaper that I use for my pastel work, but it stays clean. I don't like using brushes because it can ruin your brush. Okay, coming in behind our lighthouse, looking where these crashing waves are. Tapping down beside the lighthouse there. You can see this. This comes in different colours. You might have a nude one or a buff coloured one or cream. This one I'm using is by, gosh, I can't remember. It is Masking Gum by Frisk. Okay, now I'm just going to tap this tool. If you've only got a brush, use an old one. Okay, don't use your best watercolour brush because this is a gum. And as it dries, it will stick all the bristles of your brush together and we don't want that. So just tapping on a nice pattern. Hasn't got to be completely filled in. You can leave some gaps and that will make a nice effect when we do the blue. Okay, tapping along, some splashing waves. Now you do have to wait for masking fluid to dry before you go on and paint, okay? Those of you who haven't got masking fluid, I'm going to get up in a minute and just go and grab an oil pastel, if I can find it. You could use a crayon. It's not as good, it's not as totally resistant as masking fluid, but it will retain some of the white paper. So where I'm putting the masking fluid, you just put your crayon or your oil pastel. I'm going to have a splash coming right behind these rocks here. Just making a pretty pattern, that's all we're doing, indicating foam and crashing waves. So that's my splashes coming up behind the rocks. Oops. Oh, I've just noticed my masking fluid has leaked all over my paper. Thankfully it's on the edge, so I'll just peel that off. Goodness, it is messy stuff and it's got a horrible smell to it. But apart from that, it's great fun. So coming down the front of the rocks, just going to dab a bit of my liquid masking fluid there and then create some splashes just by flicking my tool, your brush, your old brush, remember, not a nice new one, because it will be ruined. Mark my words, it will be ruined if you use your best brush. And creating some splashes coming up the front of the rock. It's very stormy sea. Coming underneath. I'm just going to pour my tool out. I've got a little bit of masking fluid and drag it to the side to create some white areas that are going to exist in this little bit of sea coming off to the left, maybe a little bit to the right. Okay, I'm just going to grab another tool now. I do have somewhere, hopefully, she says, a nib pen. You know, a metal nib pen? Let me look for it. Where is it? Where are these things when you want them? Oh, here we go. So there's my nib pen. There's some finer areas, okay, which are trickier to get to. So I want to add a little bit of white in the lighthouse bars of the windows. So I'm using my nib pen to apply because I can get a much thinner line. Put my glasses on, it might help. Coming up those bars. I've got the wrong nib on here, it's a bit small. I'm going to go back to my tool. Just be careful and put a tiny bit of masking fluid on those white window frames. And also, so this is quite a small tool, I'm just going to tap it very gently along the edge of the mast. Okay, I'm not going to mask out any of the white in the lighthouse because that's easy to paint round. Unnecessary. So let's pop that away before I spill it. So masking fluid on. I'm just going to grab my oil pastel just to show you. If I can find it, guys, I'll do my best. Here we are. So I have an oil pastel, okay, like a crayon, but because it's oil based, it will give you some resist. So you can use it in the same way as I've used the masking fluid. So it's just another option for you. The downside of using wax or oil is that once you've finished and you want to remove or paint over those white areas, this won't be any good. So it's okay for the splashes because you're not going to paint over them, but it's no good if you want to remove your white and then, you know, free up the white and then paint over it. Running late, I have to catch up and finish later. That's okay. It stays on, remember. This video stays live. I've just realised there's an area I forgot to draw in, and that's the little windows. So let's just pop those in. Little square windows. If I don't put them in, I'll forget them. And a little window at the side here, which is in highlight. So the window at the side, again, you could put your masking fluid. Let's go again. I've just put the lid on. Here we go. And just pop a little bit of masking fluid, or you can just paint round it in that window. I'm making a real mess. Look. Lucky I've got my hand wipes nearby. Any questions so far? This is a nice one to do. Once you've got your drawing and your masking fluid on, the rest is pretty easy, and I'm going to show you some real nice tips that you can use to make this effect in the sky, that watery look. So all I need to do now is choose my colours. You can see it all on the screen, okay, can you? Don't forget you can hit the donate button. Hopefully it works. I don't know, I've never tried it. Just have some of my tea, give you all a chance to catch up. Okay, I'm waiting for the masking fluid to dry. So whilst that's going on, let me just take you through the colours I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using one of my, these are my colours, these are my handmade paints, and I've got a beautiful colour called Cobalt Turquoise, and that's the colour you can see here, Cobalt Turquoise. Now if you can't afford to buy my whole set of watercolour, well, that one doesn't actually come with the set, it's a colour that I sell separately. So if you want to get your hands on some Cobalt Turquoise, you can order just a single pan from my website. I'm going to use Cobalt Turquoise and Prussian Blue, and then I'm going to use Vermilion or Cadmium Red for the red in the Lighthouse, with a little touch of blue in it just to dull it down, otherwise it'll be very bright. And then I'm going to use some Payne's Grey and a bit of brown in the rocks. So that's the colours. Whoops. I'm going to give this a quick blast with the hairdryer because it's still wet, otherwise we can't get painting. So here we go, block your ears. That should be okay. Let me have a test. I can hang my hairdryer back up. There we go. Just feel it. Now it will always feel sticky, but so long as it's not transferring onto your hand when you tap over it, you should be fine. Okay? So it always feels slightly sticky to touch. Off we go. Mix up some colours. Exciting. I'm going to do the background first. I'm going to use my size 12 watercolour brush. Just the plug. Remember, you can buy your equipment from me rather than Amazon. So that's the set of brushes. I've got my smaller brush which I'm going to use, And I might use one of the flat brushes today as well. Paper as well you can get from me. Just have a look on my website. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is wet, just with clean water, around the area of the lighthouse, avoiding the lighthouse itself. So use the very tip of your brush to come along the edge of the lighthouse. There's a little bit of blue down the bottom I'm going to pop in. Okay, just clean water, nice and slowly, take your time. My link's not working. Oh no! What I'll do, guys, is I will post the link if you want to donate at the end of the class. I'll put it in the comments. Oh, I thought it was all too good to be true. I've done it wrong, clearly. Technophobe. So I might be good at painting, but technical things not so good. Oh, thanks for letting me know, Martina. Guys, if you have been trying to hit the donate button, please stay with me. And at the end, I'll post in the comments the button, the link. I really wanted it to work because if you donate, it comes up with your name and says thank you on the screen. Oh, how annoying. So yeah, the donate button is there really just to support what I'm doing, bringing you these free lessons every week, and to buy me a coffee. It's the price of a cup of coffee, well, cheaper than a cup of coffee. It's £2. So I'm wetting all the area around the lighthouse, leaving the lighthouse dry, and then I'm going to add some water into my well, into my mixing palette, and bring some of this wonderful Cobalt Turquoise into the puddle. So it's nice and watery, starting with my lightest tones, and then we're just going to go wet onto wet, tapping in our colour. Just dance that brush around the page, take it where you want it to go. Just tap in with the tip of my brush into the water and letting the colour flow. It won't go on the lighthouse unless you got it wet, okay? So this is the test to see whether you did it right. So this is quite a diluted colour to start with. In I go, just spreading it around, really using the tip of the brush. Let me just turn my board slightly so I can come in behind the dome. That's the fiddly bit. There we go. And right up close to the lighthouse. So I don't want any gaps. So use the tip of your brush as you come along that line. And coming in the other side. Nice light wash to start. We're going to make it darker and add some interest in a moment. Coming up behind the wave, and I'm also going to add some of this at the bottom of this wave here, behind the rocks. A little bit of colour there. Splashing out. Now I'm going to leave mine ragged. I want the edge just to bleed out. So I'm not going to paint it up to the masking tape. Oops. Excuse my head if it's in shot. Just while I come around the tip here. Okay, now I'm going to make my puddle creamier. I'm going to add some more of the turquoise into my puddle so it's stronger. And I'm going to go again, wet into wet, putting this darker, more pigmented version of the colour. So it's exactly the same colour. I've just added more pigment into my puddle. Come down the side here. So we're getting a variety in the tones. Now I'm going to mix it up a little bit, guys. I'm going to take my Prussian blue. There's my Prussian blue. I'm going to drop it into that puddle to darken it. So we've got 2 blues in the puddle now. And I'm going to go behind the waves, a little bit darker again, just tapping down with the tip of my brush and letting it just move in the water that's down. I want to take the spot beside the white of the White House a bit darker. Just tap that in where you want some darker blues to go. Now for some magic. You'll notice I've not covered the whole paper with colour. So I'm going to come in with just a wet brush, clean water, and I'm going to create push outs. It's like little puddles of water that are going to push and react with the paint underneath. So I'm going to drop quite a lot of water down, and you could splatter it. You could just splatter, and where the water lands, it's going to create a pattern, and it's actually going to disperse the paint and create some more of these softer areas, pushing the paint away. Come back with a little. If it pushes too much, just come back in with another drop of paint. You could also go in to lift out, remember. So I've dried my brush, and you could just go in and lay a dry brush on the paper, give it a little twist, wipe it off and pick up some colour. Okay, so another way of approaching it. Splash down and let the water do the work, or use the brush. I'm just going to wet that area there again. There we go. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to leave that to do its thing and to dry. And whilst that's happening, just give me 1 second, one memento. We need to let that dry off. Don't touch your masking fluid. I'll be with you in 1 tick. Give you a chance to catch up. And right now I've just posted the link, hopefully. There you go. I've just posted the link to Ko-fi in the comments. So if you do want to make a donation, a £2 buy me a coffee, then you can click the link there. And I'll shout your name out if it comes through. Okay, I'm not going to dry that yet. Just let it do its thing. Pick up my brush again. And now for the bit of ocean that we can see, I'm going to use my Prussian blue. Pop that in there. And again, I'm going to pre-wet the sea. Just bring it across. And in front of the lighthouse, in front of the rocks, clean water. Just giving the paint somewhere to go when it lands. This is such a lovely one to do. Come into the Prussian blue. I'm taking it fairly strong. It's a bit like a milky consistency, so not very watery. I want quite a pop of colour. Going to come across, and for this painting it really doesn't matter if it bleeds into the sky. Coming in front of the lighthouse, dragging my brush along left to right, and I'm going to fade it out as we come forward, leave some white paper showing, and the other side just behind the rocks there, leave some white paper showing. I'm going to go a little bit stronger, this time straight from the pan. Whilst it's still wet, just drag some lines through the sea. And these will bleed out and bleed in to the paint that's already down, giving you a nice soft look. Okay. Now we're going to go to the rocks next. And generally I'd say to you, wait for your blue to dry before you go on to the rocks. Otherwise what's going to happen, the brown of the rocks could bleed into your beautiful blue sky, and we don't want that. So the links come up there. So if anyone wants to click Ko-fi alerts, you can just click there and it should take you to my Ko-fi page to make a donation for a cup of coffee. I'm just going to dry behind the rocks. There we go. Now it's time to put the rocks in and mix up our lovely dark colours for the rocks. Okay, so turn that round so you can see it. Here we go. I'm going to take some of it. If someone could click on that link and tell me if it's actually working, that would be greatly appreciated. I've just put it in the comments there. I'm taking some of my brown umber. Here we go. Pop that in there. And I'm going to add... Is that not working either, Pip? Really? Oh no! Disaster. I'm going to take some ultramarine blue and pop it into the brown. Ultramarine into the brown to make it darker. Bit more pigment. I want this quite strong, so it's creamier than we used before. Touch more. And I'm also going to add some burnt sienna. In we go with the burnt sienna. I'm really disappointed that's not worked. It was going to be a bit of fun. Okay, some burnt sienna, some ultramarine blue, and I've put some brown umber in as well. I'm just going to come under our lighthouse and into the rocks, wet onto dry. Just get my initial wash over the rocks. This is fairly light, although it's quite creamy. It's not really creamy. That's where I put the oil pastel, just here. Can you see? It's left that white area. So oil pastels do work. So this sort of tanny brown colour, bringing it all over the rocks down to the masking fluid that I put on at the bottom. Okay, so that white area there that you can see, that's the oil pastel that I put on earlier. So I'm going to have to deal with that. I'm going to darken my colour now. More blue, more creamy. Take it really creamy. Blue and burnt sienna. Here we go. Martina, it worked at the weekend, didn't it? It's because you kindly donated at the weekend. So how very odd. So I'm just using burnt sienna and my dark blue, my ultramarine blue, making it nice and creamy and strong. And I'm going to go wet into wet under that lighthouse and just using the very tip of my brush, come along and create that jagged edge of the rocks. And this dark colour is going to bleed nicely into the wet paint we put underneath. So I'm really focusing mainly along that top edge. And now, because I want some shadow that the lighthouse is casting, I'm going to come down, just tapping some darker colour, spreading towards the ocean in that area. Imagining the lights coming from over here somewhere, dragging some shadow. And it creates a rough texture as well. You can use it to create texture in your rocks. Just adding a little bit more water under that colour where I want it to spread. Fabulous. So the colours, just to recap, I used my brown umber with some blue to start with that base colour, and then I used burnt sienna and ultramarine blue for that dark brown grey look at the base of my lighthouse. Okay, so let that dry for a second. Okay, let me just have a quick look at that then, Martina. Let me just have a look. Your page. Let's try once more and then I'll give up. I'll just try once more. Here we go. See if this works. I've just posted another link to my page. Maybe that will work. There we go. Try that one. It's just in the comments, guys. Have a look. There's a picture of me come up. I think that will work. And then I'll work on the technicalities for next week and try and get it to come up on the screen. I want you to see your name in lights. Okay, now we do need to dry this off. I've still got, can you see the shine on the page? I do need to dry that off because we're going into the bright reds now. So to keep your colours clean, they must be dry before you paint next to it. It worked! Oh, thank you! Thank you, Deborah. Whoops. Here we go. Dry it off. So if you do donate, let me know. And I'll shout you out. That's the only way I can do it. Oh dear. It's so funny. Oh, there we go. It's told me. Fabulous. Doesn't tell me who though. How annoying. Okay, into our lighthouse now. Let's get this lovely bright red that makes our seaside lighthouse come to life. So turn my well round again. I don't need the blues anymore. You see that lovely pattern in the sky? Isn't it wonderful? Just a nice blurry, misty, cloudy scene. So I'm going to take my vermilion. If you haven't got vermilion, you can use cadmium red, just an orange base red. But I want to take it a little bit darker. Okay, so quite creamy. I've not added too much water for this. I'm going to add a little bit of ultramarine blue, just a little bit, just to darken it off. If you put too much, it will go purple like that. So we don't want a purple lighthouse. We're going to go into our cadmium red. There we go. Just to muddy it a bit, just to make it a little bit darker. Oh, excellent. Another donation. Thank you. And using the very tip of my brush now, coming across onto the red part of our lighthouse. You could go down to a smaller brush. In fact, I might. We'll see. If your brush has got a nice point to it, you shouldn't need to. I'm coming along that line for the curve of the lighthouse and into the foot. I'm going to come across the bottom. I'm going to clean my brush out and just bring some water into the middle and allow that red to bleed down. So it's not one flat colour. So I'm getting some highlights in the red. Lovely. I'm just going to take that a little bit neater up the edge. This one's going to take a little while, longer than normal, because it's quite fiddly. And can you see that highlight that we're getting in the painting? Let me grab a piece of tissue. If you want to pour some more highlights out, just take a little bit of tissue and tap down and lift off a bit of the paint. Into the next level of the lighthouse, I'm going in with a dry brush into my paint, coming along that curve first, on the bottom, and then I do my sides. Nice and neat, right on the point of the brush, coming around that window. Then I'm going to add some water to my brush and add water in the middle and encourage that red to spread. There we go. I'm going to add a little bit stronger colour. Just tap in a bit stronger if you want it stronger. Wonderful. Isn't it great when you get that red on? It really brings it to life. Coming now under on the last part of the red, again the same process, coming across top and bottom, up the sides. Okay, try not to get it over your blue and just pulling that across. A little bit more on that edge using the very point of my brush. There we go. It's working. Oh, thank you, Chris. Your internet is buffering. Skip to go and fetch some masking fluid from the cupboard. Excellent. Remember to post your pictures for me as well. If you take part, even if you do it afterwards, you can post them in here. I love to see them all. Okay, into that top part of the red lighthouse. And remember, use your tissue if you want to lift areas of highlight, or just use a damp brush to pull out the colour and wipe it on your tissue as you pull it off. Fabulous. I've made a bit of a smudge there, but you'll let me off, I'm sure. Oh, fantastic. Thank you guys for donating. It really means the world to me. Okay, into the top of the lighthouse now. I need to leave this bit alone because it's wet, and we know if we work next to it, it's going to spread and it's going to ruin the effect. So I'm going to take my golden umber. I'm going to take it neat, straight from the pan, straight from the tube with a little bit of water, and I'm going to pop my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to come into the dome, add a little bit of this yellow ochre or golden ochre, and into the light at the top, down the mast, and a little bit on that window frame that's at the back. Now that's quite detailed, don't worry if you can't do that, or just leave it white, okay? But I've gone to the window frame that's you seeing through the glass. My red's drying, so I'm going to carry on coming down the building with my golden ochre down towards the red, just spreading this wet onto dry over the top part of our lighthouse. And again, I want some lighter areas, so I'm just going to use a dry brush to go in and lift out some of that paint. I find it easier this way. Just paint all over and go and adjust it. Yay, I've earned my coffee. Thank you. It's a fun thing. I came by it, this app, by accident, and I thought I'd give it a try because people have been asking me how can I donate, and now we've set it up. Okay, I want to darken now. I'm going to take burnt sienna. Let me wipe that out. I used the wrong colour. I'm so excited and heady today. Take burnt sienna and some golden ochre. Bit more golden ochre, just to darken this top part of our lighthouse, and add a bit more definition and darks here and there, particularly under this rim where there's a shadow. Next to the red, as you go up the lighthouse, I'm going to take some Friends Grey or Payne's Grey if you haven't got my set, and come in to create that shadow under where the lighthouse changes from the red up to the tip of the lighthouse. Fabulous. Now I need to wait for that to dry. Thank you. I can hear lots of clicking on my phone. Eunice, do you sell glassine paper? I'm about to, Chris. I have this huge wad of glassine paper here. All I'm waiting to do is to cut it up to size, and I will be selling it. So watch this space. In the next couple of days, I'll post it on the website, okay? For those of you that think, what on earth is glassine paper? We use it to protect pastel work when we're finished and we're not going to frame it. So if you put glassine paper over the top, it stops smudging. Really good way to store your pastels. Okay, where was I? Windows. So you would need a nice dark rich. Don't use black. We don't use black in my lessons. Very rarely use black. So I'm going to go straight onto the corner of my burnt sienna and then onto the blue. Can you see? Is it in shot? Onto the blue, brown, end on the blue. Wet brush, not too wet. And then into those little dark windows with the tip of your brush, pop them in. There we go, we've got some windows. Now I'm just waiting for that bit to dry up here because I want to put some of the sea colour, the ocean colour, the sky colour in the glass. So just give this a little dry. Bear with me guys, I know you hate the hairdryer. Just drying the top bit there. And then I'm going to take my tiny brush, teeny weeny size 6 brush, into my beautiful Cobalt Turquoise. I'm going to pop that in the panes of glass at the top of the lighthouse. And I think there's a little bit of chrome, some brass or copper on top of the lighthouse. I always earn my coffee. Oh, thank you, Roger. Bless you. So the top of this lighthouse has gone a bit, you know how, is it copper that goes green? I think it's copper, isn't it? So I think there's copper on this lighthouse roof. So I'm going to add some of this teal colour, my Cobalt Turquoise, up the top too. Just through the glass windows. I'm going to lift a little bit of that out. Use your tissue, just quick dab down to lift so it's not solid, so it looks glassy. There we go. We're nearly done. We've got the very exciting bit next, to take the masking fluid off and see if it's worked. So the white bits of my lighthouse, I want to add a little bit of colour to them. So I'm going to take my golden ochre or yellow ochre, just a tiny bit, really watered down. Just going to add a spot of colour to the lighthouse, just to dirty it. Okay, move everything out of the way. We're going to rub off. Now some people use an eraser to go over the masking fluid. Be careful. I just use my finger. I just rub gently with my finger. Your work must be dry. Your paper must be dry, otherwise you could get a tear. Okay, coming over, it just peels off the paper. If you've used a wax crayon or an oil pastel, you don't have to do this. So there are benefits. There we go, getting those splashes off, revealing the lovely crisp white paper underneath. Now the benefit, as I say, of using masking fluid is if you want to, and I want to, thank you, Roger, it is copper. I'm going to go into my ocean colour, my Prussian blue. I'm just going to add a few more splashes, a bit of water over this area, a bit of colour coming up into those splashes. I think I used a little bit too much masking fluid, so I'm just coming in again with another layer, just adding a bit more sea there. Okay, into the sky, behind the rocks. Excuse the noise. There we go. Now, hopefully you can see there were places where the paint went over the top of the masking fluid. And there's tiny little marks of blue, speckled, where I didn't paint it as a solid lump. And that's why I say don't do it as one block. Dab it on, create patterns, and have some blue peeking through. There we go. There is something I did forget though this time. I forgot the seagulls. I forgot the seagulls. So what I should have done is put some masking fluid seagulls in the sky. I did it yesterday, but I forgot today. There we are. And that leaves that lovely clean paper behind for the splash. And as I say, if you want to add a little bit more colour to that splash, some reflections from the sky, just wet that wave and bring a tiny bit of paint in and dab it around. Okay, wet it everywhere, clean water, and then just bring really diluted cobalt turquoise or whatever colour you used for your sky and dab it in over the top. So the other thing you can do, if you're like me and you forgot your seagulls because I didn't tell you to do it, I'm going to use a blade. You could use a craft knife. I'm going to use my nib pen and I'm going to scratch some seagulls gently, a little bit at a time. Just remove a little bit of the paper with the paint on and we can put our seagulls in. I'm not going to not have seagulls, have them at different angles, just vary the wing shape. It's just curve and then another curve, scratching through. This is my get out of jail free card for forgetting to put masking fluid. Or you could use a gel pen. I don't want black seagulls, but you could use a white gel pen. There we go. My seagull has landed, so I've got scratched in just with a sharp implement. It could be a craft knife, it could be a drawing pin, anything that you've got to hand. So now we have one more bit to rub off. The window and up the top the glass for the framework. There we go. Our wonderful lighthouse ×2. Which one do you prefer? So if you have any ideas about next week, what you'd like me to do, suggestions, help me out, put a message on here and I'll see it with some ideas about future classes on our wonderful Watercolour Wednesdays. Now if you were too busy painting and didn't get time to hit the donate button, you can still do that now. It's in the comments. I'll post it once more at the end. One other thing I forgot. What have I forgot, guys? Come on, tell me. I forgot my splashes. So I'm going in, mix of my Prussian blue and my turquoise. I'm just going to do a few splatters. There, I love splattering. What fun. What a lovely way to end our Watercolour Wednesday. Thank you so much again for watching me every week. Please share my channel, subscribe. I also post this over on YouTube, so you can follow me on YouTube as well if you want to. Yes, Pip, you got it. The splashes. Well done. I will enjoy my coffee, Carol. Thank you so much. I'll just leave you with a short video and look forward to seeing you all again next Wednesday. Bye, guys, and thank you so much to those of you that took time to donate. Bye for now. Bye.